Get lumped up tonight. Listen to Rob Rossi and Rock a Mine on the only podcast that I'll hear that won't make me wanna rip off my ears. Oh, the Rock Show, the Rock Show, the Rock Show, the Rock Show, the Rock Show. The Rock Show, oh, I want the Rock Show. The Rock Show, 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 the Rock Show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Rock Show special we have for you today. This is going to be a tribute on the late Jimmy Buffett, who passed away on September 1st. I'm Rocker Mike, and that's Rob Rossi. How are you, Rob?
Pretty good today. It's amazing. This is a guy that we probably would never do like a show on because he's not pretty much your agenda, but he's a guy that I've seen live once or twice, and he put on a hell of a show. It was like a party, the beach ball, they're playing, and it was just a good time.
You're probably right. I probably wouldn't have thought of doing a show on him, but I got nothing against the guy. He was known as a party animal. I can appreciate that, and it's just the whole Parrothead thing is something that I never really got into. But I'm not against it. I mean, and it's sad that he died. He was well loved, well respected. He did quite a bit of charity through his whole life. He gave back to the community, and he loved his fans. And he toured up until the very end. Sadly, he passed away on the 1st of complications from Merkel cell carcinoma, which is a very rare skin disease. And when I was doing the research, it just got me thinking. I'm like, this guy was just known for being out on his boat and being in the sun and being on the beach and sipping a margarita on the beach and, all that stuff. And I guess the sun, right? I guess he never, being out in the sun for so long, I guess got him. I don't know. Just guessing.
A lot of the shows he did were like he tried to do outside shows.
Outside shows. Venue. Yeah, I wonder if that.
He did it indoor. It was like, but the outside, it was like a party. It's like you were on the beach, listening to music. It was just this party atmosphere. You would just like smoke a bunch of doobies, but take some mushroom and then enjoy the show,
The tailgating for a Jimmy Buffett show was supposedly incredible. That's I've always heard that.
Yeah, because I actually went to the Margaritaville in Key West, which is one of the original ones.
I think that is the original one.
And they actually had like a happy hour, so I had a few margaritas. But it's funny when he died, I think everywhere I went, like I heard Margaritaville like 6-7 times that night because there was everybody,
Yeah, I was in a bar the other night. When the hell was it? Monday night. And I guess it was just a couple of days after Buffett passed and people were playing stuff on the jukebox and everything. And I was like, okay, hey, look, the guy was around for a very long time, about 50 years. Okay.
Yeah.
And made his mark. He's some very interesting points here. Before I get into his life story, he had over 30 albums in total.
Yeah.
8 was certified gold and 9 platinum or multi-platinum. In total, he sold over 20 million albums worldwide. Now, between that and the Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville restaurants, he also had another one. I remember the other one too. It's not around anymore, but it was called Cheeseburger in Paradise. That was named after one of his songs, and that was a restaurant chain as well. Between the music, the business adventures he was in, which I'll get into a little deeper after, it wasn't just restaurants. Okay, he became one of the richest musicians in the world, and he was worth $1 billion with a B. Okay. And he was also a best-selling author.
Yeah.
So this guy had his hands in a lot of things, and he really, he must have been some businessman, because it really worked for him. So that's cool.
But he also had a percentage. The Land Shark stadium, like for Dolphin, he did that.
And the
He
Land Shark beer.
Also did beer, Land Shark beer. He sold to Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah, I mean, he started that.
Yeah, even the Cheeseburger in Paradise, he sold that. Everything he starts, he sold.
Yeah, I mean, he was a real, he catapulted this successful music career into like an empire almost. Okay, like he was a real entrepreneur. I can respect that.
Yeah, because he did that thing. Resort Casino was pretty much dying and stuff, and then he decided to open up that $35 million Margaritaville
in Atlantic City,
and just it like revived like that Resort Casino. So they're doing pretty good there.
Well, that
Margaritaville is not that bad. If you ever go, they got pretty decent food.
I have been there. I have been there quite a few years back, but I have been there, and it isn't just the Margaritaville. You have your Cheeseburger in Paradise place. You have it's a theme, like it's a Jimmy Buffett theme throughout the casino. So he definitely turned it around. Okay, because Parrotheads are like deadheads. All right, they followed him around. They just go with what they were like, rabid fans. So anytime he put his name on something, he had his whole audience just jump on it. So, he was really was a genius in a lot of ways.
Yeah, because he was a total, definitely a musician, but he was a great entrepreneur. Like you said, entrepreneur. He just put his money, and let me tell you, man, he lived a pretty good life. I
would say so. He was worth $1 billion. He had a beautiful house in Sag Harbor, way out east, and he been living there for a long time. The guy owned many boats over the years, airplanes. He went and did what he wanted to do, and he gave back also. He did a lot of charity work, like I said, and I just think he was an all around good guy. It's a shame, but 77. He lived a fairly long life, and I can get into the story here. It's very interesting. He was born on Christmas Day, 1946, December 25th. Now, as a young child, he started out playing the trombone. He was also exposed to sailing at a young age. Yeah, that's him after quite a bit of years. There he is. Yep. He was exposed to sailing with his grandfather. His grandfather's name was James Delaney Buffett, and he was a steamship captain from Newfoundland. And his father, Buffett's father, was a marine engineer and a sailor as well. So he had this sailing background with his family and a lot of experience on boats. And that's why there's a lot of songs that have references to sailing and boats and the tropical life and all that. They like to call his music tropical rock. I always thought that was kind of funny. He enrolled in Auburn University in 1965. By the way, he was born in Pascagoula, Mississippi. He was from the South. Yeah. So he enrolled in Auburn University in 1965, but he failed out the next year. However, he did learn to play guitar from a classmate because he wanted to pick up chicks. So he learned how to play guitar to impress the ladies. And he did continue going to college after failing out of Auburn. He went to Pearl River Community College and the University of Southern Mississippi. He did this in order to keep his draft deferment. All right. In the Vietnam era, if you were in college, you were deferred from the draft most of the time. Yeah. He also had a failed physical exam that kept him out of Vietnam. But he would receive a bachelor's in history in 1969. He would then move to New Orleans briefly and play for mostly tourists and drunken audiences at the old Bayou Room on Bourbon Street. It's not there anymore. But in 1970, he would move to Nashville, Tennessee, and basically did that to kind of further this country career that he was interested in.
Yeah.
In early 71, he was hired by the Exit Inn nightclub in Nashville. And after a few months growing weary of the Nashville scene, he would relocate again, this time with country singer Jerry Jeff Walker to Key West in Florida, which would be kind of like a headquarters for him now, you know. He quickly fell in love with the music scene there. And also, he got involved in this kind of like literary scene that existed in Key West at the time, with some famous authors that hung out there, like Jim Harrison and Truman Capote. Okay, that's one of the books that he would write later in life. I think that's not his memoir, though, right? I think there's another book that's his memoir. But at this time in the early 70s, sex and drugs in Key West was plentiful. He was having a good time and indulging in all that. In 73, he signed a record contract with ABC Dunhill Records. And this had happened right after the death of folk singer Jim Croce. Record producer Don Gant for that company was looking for a replacement for Croce.
Wow.
And pretty much Buffett fit that bill, he felt. So his first release was the album A White Sport Coat and Pink Crustacean, released in that year, 1973. Early songs like Grapefruit, Juicy Fruit, and Why Don't We Get Drunk, as well as I Have Found Me a Home, were all about his time in Key West. He was just drawing off his experiences. In December of 74, from the album Lying and Dying in Three-Quarter Time, he would have his first single to crack the Billboard 100 with the song A Pirate Looks at 40. And it was written about a drug smuggler that I think he knew about. Now, in 75, he started a band called the Coral Reefer Band, which had some success. They opened for the Eagles a few times in 1975. The album Havana Daydreamin' was released in 1976. And then in 77, he released Changes in Latitudes, Changes in Attitudes. This would be a breakthrough album for him.
Yeah.
You had the title track, and of course you had the smash hit song that everyone knows called Margaritaville.
Yeah.
Buffett claims that he actually wrote that song in about 6 minutes, most of it in about 6 minutes. In March of 78, he released Son of a Son of a Sailor. Son of a Son of a Sailor. In addition to the title track, it also had the number 32 song on the charts, Cheeseburger in Paradise. Those two are probably his most well-known songs, though he had other, smaller hits as well. In 79, Volcano, was the album, and featuring the title track and the song called Fins. Later on in 85, a compilation would come out called Songs You Know by Heart, which featured what he called the Big Eight, which was like Margaritaville and Cheeseburger in Paradise and other famous songs that he would always play. This compilation is actually his best-selling album out of his whole catalog. And it sold 7 million copies in the first 20 years of its release by 2005. Between 85 and 2005. That's pretty huge. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of records there. He would do an interesting release in 1994. If you remember, there was the Duets series that Frank Sinatra put out.
Yeah, the Mac the Knife.
Right. Duets 1 and 2. Modern artists singing with Frank. That was pretty much Frank's swan song stuff, or what he had done. He would pass away a few years later. But he did Mac the Knife, like you say, with Frank Sinatra. It's a very cool version of it, In 96 and 98, he had two controversial incidents happen to him. The first being in 1996, his plane was leaving Jamaica, the island, and the police shot at the plane, as it was leaving. And it did some damage, but nobody got hurt, nothing serious.
Yeah.
They believe that the plane they misunderstood who was on the plane. They believed that there were marijuana drug smugglers on the plane smuggling weed out of Jamaica. Okay. So they decided.
They probably were.
Yeah. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, is obviously Buffett was on the plane and his pilot and co-pilot or whoever, but
Yeah.
Bono from U2 and his family were also on that plane. Okay. So, and also Island Records producer, the famous Chris Blackwell, was on that plane too. So Jamaican authorities had to quickly apologize. They made a public apology about that. In 1998,
Mike, you know what's funny? I remember that thing. It was on MTV News.
I remember hearing it too. Yeah, I'm like, yeah.
The plane getting shot out.
Yeah,
he was.
I said they were only apologizing because it was him. He probably had him.
That was probably weed in that fucking plane.
There was probably smoke coming out of the windows.
No smoke.
Anyway,
I can't believe how that. Once you say that, I remember clear. I was like,
yeah, I remember the news reports about that. It came and went quick, but I remember it.
Yeah.
Now, in 1998, the second controversial thing happened was he released a song. This is kind of funny. It's called "Math Sucks."
Yeah.
Okay, and he got in trouble because it got condemned by math teachers and the National Education Association as being, detrimental to children's education. I mean, really, it's Jimmy Buffett. You're going to go after this guy for that? That's ridiculous. Okay. I mean, I don't know. And just for the record, math always did suck. So, I don't have a problem. So in 2003, he partnered with country star Alan Jackson for a song called "It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere," which spent 8 weeks on the top of the country charts. He also won a 2003 Country Music Award for Vocal Event of the Year for that song, and that was his first award in at that point was 30 years in the business.
Wow.
He would also top the U.S. pop album charts for the first time in 2004 with the album License to Chill. Now, I think that's interesting because he's doing this practically with no radio airplay.
Yeah.
In 2004, the only time you would hear Jimmy Buffett on the radio was classic rock would play Margaritaville or something, or some state. But I do not recall any new stuff.
Pencil thing mustache.
Yes. So interesting. He's doing all that with very little radio airplay. So for the next 20 years, he would continue to record and also play live to his rabid fans that were known as Parrotheads. We talked about that before. They would wear parrot hats, okay, and Hawaiian shirts. That was the gear. Okay. Yeah. And if they were kids that were doing it, like if your parent was a parrot head, your kid would be called a parakeet.
Yeah.
Okay. And sort of like Deadheads, and the tailgating was off the hook. That was well known as you're going to get lumped up in the parking lot at Jimmy.
You were Zula before you even went in the show. You were hammered.
You were hammered.
Like you were just like, oh man, what the hell happened? And then it would just go. Then he'll go on stage and fucking rock out. It was pretty fascinating seeing some of those shows.
Isn't that what you want from every show, pretty much?
Yeah.
So
the thing with the Buffett show, you don't remember much by the end of it. You wind up somewhat like, how the hell did I get here?
How many times you saw him? Just once?
Twice.
Yeah. That's cool. So he was also a best-selling author. He wrote several books that made the New York Times bestseller list.
That's amazing.
Yeah. His memoir was called A Pirate Looks at 50. And he wrote that in 1998. He wrote 2 children's books called The Jolly Mon, like Jamaican Mon, and Trouble Dolls. He also wrote Tales from Margaritaville and Where is Joe Merchant? Also a book called And a Salty Piece of Land. Okay. So the guy wrote several books. They all did well. His songs appear in numerous films. And he's also had a few cameos. Most famously was in 2015 in the film Jurassic World, one of the sequels to Jurassic Park, where he's actually holding 2 margaritas in his hand and the dinosaurs get loose in the park.
I'm surprised he didn't do any Sharknado stuff.
Yeah, right. I guess he was a little older by that point. But in the late 80s, Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville chain of restaurants was born. Started in Key West and would branch out to other cities, other locations. And that, really made him a ton of money and, boosted his whole profile from just being a musician. Now he's a restaurant owner. Okay. Now he also partnered with Anheuser-Busch to brew Land Shark beer, or Land Shark Lager, I guess it's called. In 92, he started Margaritaville Records. And in 2013, you mentioned this, he opened Margaritaville in the Resorts Casino Hotel in Atlantic City, New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's really now turned into an entrepreneur.
There's also a Margaritaville in the Mohegan Sun, too.
Yes. There's one in New Orleans, too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah. In 2018, he teamed up with the Wrigley Company heir named William Wrigley Jr. to license Coral Reefer brand marijuana. So 5 years ago, he was getting involved with the weed trade, all right, which, we all know has become more legalized. Unfortunately, in May of 2023, he was diagnosed with Merkel cell carcinoma, which is a very rare skin disease. In late August, he went into hospice care in his home in Sag Harbor, and he would pass away September 1st.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and this was just a little tribute to him. He was married a couple of times. He had a big family, fantastic career, rabid fans, good life. I mean, and he was worth $1 billion when he died. So, I just think that there's nothing, you can't say nothing bad about this guy. He really, and I did learn quite a few things in the research just doing this. I didn't know everything yet. And it's just cool. I'm just, it's too bad that somebody like that had to pass away at only 77. And he was still performing. When he announced in May that he was sick, he kind of was a little vague about what he had. He didn't reveal it.
Yeah.
But he was intending to beat this, and he was intending to reschedule shows that had to be canceled. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But the music lives forever, right, Rob?
Yes, it does, man. And, you get some of his albums, smoke a little joint and listen to some Jimmy Buffett. You'll have a good time,
Well, nothing to boost your catalog like dying, unfortunately.
Yes.
You're
100% right.
We were talking about Sinatra before, and when he passed away in 98, his catalog really hadn't been selling well for a while, off and on. But, the duets thing was popular in the 90s. But his back catalog exploded. So, when that happened, and that was the time of CDs and all that. So, I mean, he had a good life, and the fans will miss him, and the fans will still listen to his music. Music never goes away.
Yeah, like it's almost like with Tony Bennett, his catalog went up. Like,
of course,
like if you went to Spotify, that those songs are like number one, and you haven't heard the song, but I think if you look into Spotify right now, the definitely Margaritaville is probably one of the most played songs right now.
Sure it is, and all the downloads and from the like Amazon and companies like that sell the MP3s, that's all through the roof.
Yep. Man, Mike, thank you for another good show, a tribute show again. We try to do some of these shows on these people, legends that have passed away. It's people that, that we grew up with. And
right.
And it's like, another tragic figure passed away.
We've been doing too many of these. We've been doing too many of these in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's not to get on my soapbox, but it's sad because there really isn't anybody coming up to replace these people. No. At least, 20, 30 years ago, if somebody died, it was sad. But there was a a great music scene in America and New York City and places specific that I knew about. And there was always somebody up and coming that was interesting, even if an older artist passed away. That's not happening anymore. And I just
like a Jimmy Buffett, there ain't gonna be nobody else that doesn't like him. Like,
nobody will fill his shoes. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying music in general. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, do you pay attention to really anything that's in the charts right now?
No, I wouldn't even know anything.
I don't either. I'm 54. Maybe I'm dating myself. Maybe I'm old now, but it's like there's nothing really moving me. You know, every once in a while I'll hear some band, you know, or someone will turn me on to something that's more underground. But there's nothing in the top 40 that interests me at all.
And plus, I listen more to. What do I listen to? I make my own my own station, Pandora. You know, I mostly listen on Spotify. I mostly listen to classic rock or just rock.
Yeah, I mean, stuff that you listen to all your life. You know,
yeah,
that's always going to be there. But I've always been the kind of guy that likes to have my ear to things. And we've done some great podcasts with some up and coming bands.
Yeah.
But again, these bands are way underground, and you know it will be difficult to break that barrier to be big. I hope they all become big, but you know, it's just if you look at what's dominating in music today, it's a lot of shit. It's a lot of crap.
Not a lot of good stuff.
Nah. So, anyway, I'm off my soapbox. Rest in peace, Jimmy Buffett.
Yep. And what do we say on this show? We don't get drunk.
We get lumped up, just like Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah. All right, people. We'll see you soon.
See you next time, people.
I wanna get lumped up tonight. Listen to Rob Rossi and Rock of Mine. On the only podcast that I'll hear that won't make me wanna rip off my